And welcome back to Subculture on CentralCoastRadio.com. Now, if you're wondering why this sounds a little bit different, it's because I'm not in the studio right now. There might be a little background noise even because I'm actually at the back of the Athenaeum Theatre in Melbourne, where I have just seen Danny Boy at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival with his new show, Now Is Not a Good Time. Now, you might wonder why I'm not in the studio doing this, because it's a last-minute review that I really want to get in for this week's show, and I thought, what better way to do it than to actually record it live here at the back of the theatre. Now, Danny Boy's show, this is a great show, I've got to say. I was laughing all throughout the show, but the interesting thing is, this is Danny Boy's return in so many different ways. First of all, he hasn't been able to perform for the last few years because of the lockdowns and the travel restrictions from Scotland. And this is also a return for him to Australia in a way, because he actually nearly broke down and cried during the performance tonight when he turned around and told us that this theatre that we're in, the Athenaeum Theatre, is actually the theatre where he did his first Australian shows about 20 years ago. So it's a bit of an emotional return for him. Look, his show does centre around what happened for him during the lockdowns and things like that. It's a little bit of a comical looking back at it now, talking about things that we purchased during that time that we're really never going to use again. And I think it actually was good to laugh at. I know there's been a lot of artists here in Melbourne over the last 12 months that I've talked to about what their careers were like during the lockdowns, and it seems to be something that still upsets a lot of people. Understandably, a lot of artists lost their livelihood during that time. They lost the ability of being able to have money to put food on the table or live the way that they were used to living. And more importantly, a lot of them, I think, are emotionally scarred from the fact that they didn't get to perform live for audiences. A lot of artists out there really need that in their lives. They need that energy that they get from being able to perform live. And comedians are no different to musicians. I think we learnt that tonight, hearing Danny Boy talk about what those 2 to 3 years were like for him. Like, I jokingly tell people that I did it tough because I did one of my first stand-up gigs right before the first lockdowns here in Melbourne. It was literally like a couple of weeks beforehand. And yeah, I loved it so much, I wanted to go back out and do it again. So I get how these guys are feeling that have been doing comedy for 20, 30 years and suddenly had that taken away from them. Look, I'll be honest, I'd never actually seen Danny Boy live before. I think I'd seen him like a few times on TV and stuff like that on some things. It was actually our co-host Lee's suggestion that we go to see him tonight, because she's been a fan of his for a long time, and she kept on telling me, look, this guy is great, you're going to love his humor. So I came along and yeah, really loved his humor. It's the kind of humor that it's talking about everyday things. It's things that you can relate to. He does little characters as well. Nothing elaborate, nothing like puppets or nothing like that. It's kind of like he'll start talking about a character or a person, and then you'll start to imitate them. It's almost improv with what he does, and it's really funny. And half the time, the laughter comes from the fact that he doesn't quite nail the accent the first time or something like that. But it really is funny stuff that a lot of people out there are going to really enjoy. He's a little bit on the tamer side as well. I know a lot of people ask me about whether certain comedians are going to swear a lot or touch on adult subjects. Look, tonight, I've got to say, he only swore a couple of times. He touched on topics that we can all relate to. There was nothing taboo in there, really. There's a little bit of dark humor in there, around celebrities dying and stuff like that, but it's not too bad. Danny Boy's show is probably the kind of show that if you're in your 20s right through to your 70s and 80s, you're going to like his style of comedy. It's that very British style of comedy, of course. Being from Scotland, that makes perfect sense. But look, I really, really enjoyed Danny Boy. So make sure you head along and check out this brand new show of his. Like I said, the show is called Now Is Not a Good Time. The show runs right through to the 23rd of April, so you've got time to go along and check it out. But yeah, definitely go and check out Danny Boy's new show. You're on Subculture on centralcoastradio.com.